Hey everyone, and welcome to the recap of day 20, which will be a pretty easy recap because nothing really happened. We started the day late, as we always do, 20 minutes late. Bev comes in and asks to see the prosecution and the defense at sidebar. She normally does this if she has something she want to say. Quite a lengthy sidebar. When they go back, I don't do body language because I don't believe it's real, but you could see that was something going on. The defense team went into a huddle. Karen was pointing at the jury box. So something was happening. The jury came in, and Bev then said, I'm going to talk to you one-on-one with counsel. All of you, so it's going to take some time. So she spent the next hour, an hour and a half, interviewing the jurors about what we don't know. To those of you out there who think it's because John DePetro had written something about he knew that they were not college graduates, and on LinkedIn, she would never have talked to the jury about that. She would just have kicked him out of the courtroom. It's not not that. There was some indication when they finally did it. No one was kicked out. One guy was moved because we don't know, but he was moved in the jury box. And she put emphasis that they have to stay away from social media and not comment on anything. So, sounds social media related, but what, if any? Then we went on to Dr. Wolf, the big guy who should remember the first trial we had. I felt she was kind of dressed in a way that wasn't quite appropriate for court, but I really liked her, Dr. Stonebridge. I like when people dress for court. She seemed really. She seemed like a fun person, but that was the neuropathologist we had in the first trial. This time they have got a neurosurgeon who did some internship way back in pathology, but in general pathology, not neuropathology. And he's probably way better at working on brains in living people than Dr. Stonebridge is working on corpses. But that's her specialty. Why wouldn't you bring in, I believe she have 3 or 4 different board certifications. She is a pretty good neuropathologist. And she was the one that when the ME couldn't determine how he died, she sent away for her to help her. But no, they had this guy, Dr. Wolf, instead, that they flew in from Miami in his busy schedule to testify that he's still working and he's still doing surgery on brains. Oh, and by the way, John O'Keefe died because he fell backwards and landed on hard ground. Okay, so was he hit by a car? No, it looked like any typical slip and fall, apparently. He had done some internship in Minneapolis back in the day, and he said it was the same injuries we saw if someone had had a heart attack and fell over backwards, which would mean there was no outside force that pushed him back. So what about the 6,000, 7,000 pounds that just smacked into him with 24.3 miles per hour? Again, I love how every time Breeden puts a new expert on the stand, they disprove his theory. Because remember, we haven't heard it yet. No one knows how John died yet. But apparently he was clipped by a car, sent flying, spinning, and landed on the grass. This guy said no, it was consistent with him just falling backwards because that would reach such a high velocity that he would break the skin on his neck, and then his brain would swell up, and he at some point died from that. He was then asked about how instantaneous it was, and he said, well, it could have been a while, which also kind of ruins his theory, because if John is out there alive in the snow for a while, wouldn't there have been steam coming off if it was cold? Now people are leaving. Wouldn't they have seen him? But the reason why they asked that question was because could he have controlled his body after it happened? And he couldn't do that. No movements that's not automatic movements could have happened. He might have, and we see this a lot when you see UFC fighters, he might have tensed up and shook a little bit. But it's to try and say that John could take his phone, look at it, close it, and put it under his body. That's why they wanted to ask if he could still move. But you can't. When the brain shuts off, all you have is just muscle cramps. You could trash around a little bit because your system is shut off, and it goes into a defense position to try and make sure nothing attacks you while you're down there. So how are they still going to explain that John took 32 steps after he died and that he closed his phone with an active? This motion isn't an automatic motion. Me breathing is in the automatic system. This one, I have to willfully say to my finger from my head, I want you to do this on a button on my iPhone. You can't do that just willy-nilly with spasms in your body, especially if it demands that you hold on to something, push a button, and then put it down beneath you. It couldn't have happened. Cross-examination on him was very simple. The injuries to his face, were they indicative of John falling backwards? No, it's not. You could get the raccoon eyes from the swelling in the head, but the egg-sized pulp he had on one side of his head, the cuts to his eyes, couldn't have happened from that. So will they try and say it's the car that did it? That makes it even dumber, but hey, it's a lot of dumb stuff in this case already. The last witness was the return of Hanley, the human sleeping aid, because, oh my God, she talks so slowly and she is just not very entertaining. We went back and forth about the plastic. We were looking at the graphs. We couldn't see them line up. So how the hell did she do that? But we might have understood something. And then we went on to the glass fragments found on the bumper and around the area. And again, magically, pieces of glass found by Proctor fit with pieces of glass found by Proctor. And pieces of glass found by Bukaki fitted with pieces of glass found by Bukaki. That's the same with the tail light. All of the pieces they found was right next to each other. That's totally impossible. But they did manage to put a few of the glass pieces together to make a glass. But we know when they left the bar, Karen said John took her glass and she was drinking vodka sodas. You normally get that in a highball. This one looked more like a rock glass. So this time we hadn't had the bartender in to tell us in what type of glass, but it clearly wasn't a normal vodka tonic glass. And where were all the glass from that wasn't from that glass. It's one of those things that, again, you just set it up. This time, the defense had done something good. They had made a visual, so you could see that none of the glass on the bumper fit with the cup that they found, and all the pieces that was found together was found by the same person, and it's just so highly unlikely. But I don't know. She was so boring. I had checked out. I hope it worked. And then on kind of a weird, I had expected that Bev would call it an early day because it was around 3:00, so they wouldn't start with Dr. Welcher. He's too big of a witness. But she calls a sidebar and then says, well, we are taking Thursday off instead of doing the half day because we're way ahead of schedule. Girl, please, we're 5 weeks into a trial. We need to keep going. But no trial today. Friday, no trial. Monday, no trial. We're back Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, half day again, and Friday. But when we come back Tuesday, I am expecting that we will be getting the last witness, Dr. Welcher, who is the guy who will then have to tell us when, how Karen hit John O'Keefe with a car. Because no one else has talked about it so far. We know John died. We have someone said he has injuries consistent with a slip and fall, and she did a 3-point turn. That's all we know from any scientific proven anything. I'm not sure it's going to help way much more to have someone sit and talk about the black box on the car, but they must really rely on his testimony to end on it. We'll see.